So let's go to a more positive team coming up next, at least in the eyes of many, the Chargers. Now, I have the Chargers here, and you've heard me say on Zero Blitz many times, I think long-term the Chargers are going to be fine. I believe that when landmark head coaches come in, the first thing they do is sell everybody the same bill. And I don't care if we're talking about John Gruden. I don't care if we're talking about Sean Payton. I don't care if we're talking about, Joe Gibbs back in the day with Washington. Like when legendary coaches come back in, what do they say? They immediately say, we're going to compete right away. Then after 1 year, they tell you, well, we didn't have the right guys in the building. We had to rip it apart. You take it down to the stubs, you rebuild it. That's where I think the Chargers are going to go. So the most interesting question to me is, what does this Herbert-Harbaugh marriage look like? If they were a celebrity couple, we'll call them Harbert. Either way, what did they look like together? Because Harbaugh loves to run the football, and Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks supposedly in the NFL. So, J.J. McCarthy, according to Harbaugh, was one of the best quarterbacks he'd ever seen in college football. He didn't throw the ball a lot. So are we about to see a different version of Justin Herbert, and are fans and the media going to be accepting of that when Herbert is a darling, and that may not be the type of offense that Harbaugh wants to run?
I'm really fascinated by this because you look at, if you're most coaches, you step in and you say, what's the one asset I have? It's Justin Herbert. I don't think Harbaugh thinks that way. I think he has a philosophy, and I think he wants to really establish the Chargers as a tough running team. That's always kind of been his MO his whole career. So I don't see him changing that. But I also will say this. Don Shula may be the greatest coach of all time, at least in conversation, right? He was part of those teams in the 70s that passed the ball only when they had to pass the ball. I think in Super Bowl VII, Bob Greasy attempted like 6 passes or something like that. He also coached Dan Marino, who was the NFL's first 5,000-yard quarterback. I think he evolved with the times and said, I got Dan Marino. I'm not going to have him handing off 30 times a game. I don't know if Harbaugh is going to do that with Justin Herbert when he really gets into the relationship with him, coaching him, sees, whoa, this guy has some special talent. I'm not just going to hand the ball off to Gus Edwards 25 times a game. I need to feature this guy and feature him prominently. I think this whole dance is going to be very interesting to see. How much does Harbaugh change his philosophy to fit Herbert? And do you feel like if he doesn't change his philosophy, are you just wasting Justin Herbert, who's making, $53 million a year? Something in that range? It's going to be fascinating because we know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, but we also know what the strength of the Los Angeles Chargers is at this point.
Are the Chargers a playoff team this year?
No, not to me. I'm very low on the Chargers. I think you are too. I just think it takes a year. I just think their talent is overrated, including Herbert, maybe. And I just don't think that they're ready. Yes, Harbaugh went 13-3 his first year with the 49ers, but the 49ers were really, really loaded, and I don't see this Chargers team being the same.